If you're a graduate engineer from Milwaukee, if you're an intense loner with a Polish name, you're not necessarily at the top of the A list for entry into Winston Cup Drivers Club. If you set out to compete with the big boys as owner driver and you do it without a major sponsor, you're not a particularly strong favorite to spend a lot of time in victory lane. If you think you can be champion, think some more. Well, folks, I got one for you. He did it all. He went the whole way, and he did it his way.
In a certain sense, you know, I've sort of lived the American dream, maybe, you know, to be able to start from nothing and work your way up to this level and accomplish this. And I'm the guy that a lot of the people that pull for the underdog might pull for me, and I'm not the perennial favorite or the guy that's won it 5 times before.
This winner's name, as you probably guessed by now, is Alan Kulwicki. I'm Neil Bonnet. We'll have his story when we come back. Place, you're right here in Hueytown, Alabama. Folks, when the 1992 season opened at Daytona, the favorite to win the championship would probably be Dale Earnhardt, maybe Rusty Wallace, or even Darrell Waltrip. Certainly not Alan Kulwicki. The previous year, 1991, Alan finished 13th in the point standings, and he started that year without a real sponsorship deal. But in 1992, it was a whole different story for Kulwicki. He came to Daytona and had to start 41st in the 500, but he charged all the way up to 4th at the finish behind Davey Allison. Then at Richmond, he ran a tight second to Bill Elliott. He racked up victories at Bristol and Pocono, and 6 Busch pole wins. It all came down to Atlanta in what many have called the most dramatic championship battle ever. In that race, he finished second to Bill Elliott by just a whisker. But Alan had led the most laps. By virtue of that, he won the Winston Cup title by just 10 points. Just 6 years after heading south from Wisconsin with just a car and a truck and a dream, owner-driver Kulwicki had won it all. He had gained the biggest victory in stock car racing. He's different from most of the Winston Cup drivers. For one thing, he's a northerner. For another, he's got a college diploma.
Well, I think I have a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering, and I think that helps me understand the cars better. It takes some of the guesswork out of them. In the long run, I think that's a real asset. You know, I wouldn't trade that education for anything. I can't say that I've designed anything revolutionary on these cars, and I don't even profess to be the smartest person out there, but I have a reputation of being pretty good at setting up the chassis on the cars, and I think that engineering background has really helped in that respect.
Alan Kulwicki began his career in Wisconsin, where he grew up. He raced in town the Southerners never heard of: Slinger, Hales Corner, Oshkosh. Well, we know that one by gosh. He was born in Milwaukee, a place known for beer and Polish sausage. He learned auto racing from his family. His father, Gerald, was a top engine builder on the USAC circuit who worked with 6 championship teams. And they went more than 6 consecutive seasons without an engine failure. Alan's reserved father didn't push his equally reserved son into a race car.
I didn't want him to get, you know, right out of high school and jump into the race car and, you know, go full-time racing. So I just encouraged him to get an education, and if he wasn't cut out to be a race driver, you know, and if things didn't go right, he always had something to fall back on. So that's what he did, and I think he's very glad that he did it that way.
If your dad wasn't all that enthused about your racing when you did go through the college and you got the degree and you worked on through there, do you think that relieved some of the pressure from him and, hey, let him try the racing side?
Probably. I think when he realized that this kid's going to do it one way or another, whether I support him in it or whether I don't, eventually he started coming around, and you know, now he probably is one of my biggest fans. He comes to some of the Winston Cup races, and he gets, you know, I can tell he gets a lot of pride out of it.
All All successful Winston Cup drivers go through a lot on their way to the top, but few had the intestinal fortitude and the skill to do it on their own like Alan Kulwicki. The toughest trials came early and were very tough indeed. He was devastated by the loss of his mother, then his brother, and his grandmother.
No one would choose to have things happen that way in their life. My mother died when I was in 2nd grade. My dad and I lived with my grandmother. She helped raise us, and she died when I was in 7th grade. My brother died when I was in 8th grade. So I'd have to say that was a lot of adversity to deal with that early in life, and I never would have chose that. I wish, I could have kept more of that family together. But somehow or another, in the long run, I think that did make me more determined. The fact that I had to maybe get out there and do some more things for myself, or, stand up for myself a little bit more. I think in the long run that made me more determined and a little bit tougher. And like I said, I wouldn't have chosen it that way, but maybe some good things did come out of it.
That determination and toughness certainly helped Alan Kulwicki become the first owner driver since Richard Petty to win the Winston Cup championship. Alan made his commitment to NASCAR Winston Cup racing in 1985. The next year, after moving to the Charlotte, North Carolina area, he won the Rookie of the Year title. But it was in 1991 that his team got the big boost that it needed. They got a sponsor. Alan Kulwicki is very focused on keeping his team in high gear. He's also conscious of his image with his fans, but doesn't really sense what he actually means to them. Greenfield, Wisconsin, that's a suburb of Milwaukee, declared Alan Kulwicki Day in January. Alan told friends he was afraid to go back because he thought there wouldn't be but 37 people waiting. Well, there were a lot more than 37. Estimates of the crowd that turned out at Greenfield High School ranged from 6 to 10,000. They stood in line for hours just to get a chance to talk to him or to get an autograph. Alan responded. He missed his flight to spend extra time with his fans, and at day's end, he had signed his name about 1,200 times.
I seem to get a lot of fan mail from people that say, I really look up to you, I admire you, the way you did things. And not just in racing, not just other race car drivers, but, people that would say, when things get tough, I think about the things that you went through to get to this point, and, it's given me a little inspiration to go on and finish my education, to go on and try to get a promotion in my job, to go to night school, whatever. I get a lot of letters from people that, say that, they found inspiration in that in other areas of their life, and there's a lot of satisfaction that it makes you feel good to know that maybe you can have a positive influence on other people.
One person who's seen that positive influence since 1988, when he became Alan Kulwicki's crew chief, is Paul Andrews. Paul started in the racing business back in the mid-'70s with Rusty Wallace. Then and now, Paul is known for his hard work, just like Alan, his current boss.
We both work hard, but we both want to get things done. I mean, just kind of like whatever it's going to take to get it done. Sometimes you have to work a little harder, or sometimes you can take off here or there, but most of the time you got to keep working.
Paul Andrews and Gerald Kulwicki know Alan very well. Gerald Kulwicki can tell you what makes his son a winner.
His desire and persistence. He just very serious about it. Wants to do a good job. He does. That's why he's been with everything. He just do the best he can. If he got into racing, he wants to win the race. If he wins the race, he wants to win the championship, and he just keeps setting goals and just keeps going higher and higher.
Alan Kulwicki has been called many things: dedicated, focused, hard-working, distant, remote, even callous. But his crew chief sees another side.
He's always talking about or thinking about racing or sponsors or whatever it is. There's always something about the race team. But he can be a real nice, very personal person.
A lot of people say, well, he's pretty quiet or he's really shy or something like that. When I'm in the garage area, I'm not there to socialize. It doesn't mean that I can't be friendly to people, but I'm not there to socialize. I'm there to work on the car. I'm there to try to make my car run better than the next guy's. Coming up to me in between practice sessions is like coming up to a prize fighter in between rounds, you know. Maybe that's not the time you want to approach me sometimes, but I'm just intense in what I'm doing.
The stirring story of the hard life and hard times of our brave hero, Alan Kulwicki. How good triumphed over evil and Dale Earnhardt will continue after this.